So usually when I make a Where Have You Been video, I re-dye my hair. I don't have any hair dye, but I did get it cut recently, and then I had some like leftover orange conditioner, so my hair is slightly more orange than it was a little while ago, so that's gonna have to do. But let's go ahead and get into the premise. Where have I been? Because I promised a 2-week vacation, and instead I think it's been coming on 2 months now. So what happened? First of all, I do want to say this. I wasn't planning on taking a break at all. In my post where I said that I was gonna be not uploading for 2 weeks, I mentioned that I was going to Japan on vacation. And my initial plan was to not take a break, to while I was in Japan have enough videos backstock to just have those roll out while I was in Japan. That didn't end up happening for a number of reasons, mostly kind of like work related stuff, being really busy with work on top of getting ready for that vacation. So I didn't end up getting the videos done before I left for Japan. They were like 60% of the way there, and I was like, oh, here's a smart idea, just work on them on the plane ride. It's like a 14-hour plane ride. Work on the videos then. That was legitimately my goal. I even had my friend, he had like a special charging block that could charge my laptop, because it's a pretty old laptop and it's not great, so it dies really fast if it's not plugged into something. So he had a special like high-powered charger that could keep my laptop like alive while I edited on the plane. That was the goal. That didn't end up happening. The first big plane ride, the first 14-hour plane ride, I was running off no sleep and no food for about 24 hours. I don't sleep well while traveling, just period, and I definitely don't sleep on planes. Makes big long travel really difficult. Brought out my laptop, I had it charging and everything, and I worked on it for a little bit, but it wasn't working out. I was getting incredibly frustrated and like feeling really nauseous because I hadn't eaten, and really like frustrated because I was tired. It was a whole mess. And so when I finally got to Japan and had some sleep, that's when I ended up posting that comment that was like, hey, so I'm not gonna be posting for 2 weeks, but I will, when I get back from vacation, post again. My goal was to, if we had any downtime in Japan, to just finish up the edit basically. Again, I had the edit, like a big chunk of the editing done. Any of the editing that's like just taking out any pauses or like double speak was mostly gone. It was just coming down to like the visual editing. And that is simultaneously the most fulfilling part and the most difficult part for me, especially when I'm on a plane and I cannot get the assets that I need to, that I keep online. I'm not paying $30 for plane Wi-Fi. So my goal was to just do it while we were in Japan if we had any downtime. But then I was actually in Japan. I don't want to work on my vacation, so I just didn't. The videos were almost done. I can work on them when I get back. It's not that big a deal. I want to enjoy this vacation. On a similar note to that, I was gonna record more like content-y type of stuff while I was in Japan, but it's just like, I just wanted to enjoy myself. I didn't want to bother my friends with being like, hey, I gotta record YouTube stuff. So there's like a few clips here and there that I have that I'll post at some point, but I didn't want to like make this trip a content trip. I wanted to just be able to enjoy myself. So I'm in Japan, I'm having a great time. I'm not really that worried about YouTube stuff. The FNAF video was doing surprisingly well for being a really long video, which, by the way, I do want to say this. We took a short flight from Texas to California. On that flight, I did fairly decent progress on the script for the video number 2 in that series. Unfortunately, though, I got mixed up between FNAF 3 and FNAF 2, so I started writing a script based off my memories of FNAF 3 and went back to do some research on FNAF 2 and realized that I had misremembered, so I have to go back and kind of redo that whole script. However, that will be some interesting information for me to share in that script, that those 2 games are similar enough for me to get them confused. So I got like a minor amount of work done, but mostly just tried to enjoy my vacation. On the way back, it was a similar scenario. Long travel hours, I don't sleep well, I didn't eat well, and honestly, the trip back was shorter. I think it was only 11 hours. So I again missed my like bulk chance to work on something for a long time. So then after Japan, after my vacation, I'm back at home. I took an extra week off work just to like get my sleeping schedule back on track and kind of reset everything and take an actual like breather before having to immediately go back into work. And I was like, perfect, I can get so much of my YouTube stuff done during this week off of work. Well, funny thing about that, as soon as we got home from Japan, we got so sick. Actually, one of my friends got sick while we were in Japan. It wasn't COVID, we did test for it. It was just like awful cold. It was so bad. He had it a few days while we were in Japan, and then the rest of us kind of like started to catch it because we were all living together in an Airbnb, and it just happened to be really unfortunate timing that I got sick that week that I had taken off of work and was planning on working on YouTube stuff and catching up on my sleep schedule and basically recovering from the trip. I was very sick, like sleeping 16-17 hours a day kind of sick, as well as trying to catch up on that jet lag. It was tough. So I didn't get any YouTube work done because I was sick out of my mind. Like, I could barely breathe. I had like a horrible pounding headache. Yeah, it was pretty bad. And then after that, of course, I had to go back to work. Now, I already work full-time and I was able to do YouTube stuff on the side, so I figured I would pretty soon like fall back into my natural rhythm of being able to work as well as do YouTube content stuff. And again, those videos were almost done. It wasn't that big a deal, but I was still kind of getting used to my work schedule. I work in the nighttime, so it was still kind of like getting used to that sleep schedule that I had established on that week off, where I was sleeping all night and being awake all day, and then transitioning back to my normal schedule, which is being awake all night, sleeping during the day. So on Monday, I kind of was just getting back into the groove of things, getting back into work, and then on Tuesday, I started feeling horrible pain in my back. Not in like my spinal area, it was like off to the side. It was so incredibly painful. It hurt to walk, it hurt to stand, it hurt to sit. I was in a lot of pain, and I was really confused. I figured it might be because I had been like sleeping for so long over the week, and I was just kind of like sore because of having kind of been laying down for a week straight from being so sick and not having to work. So I was like, I can just stretch it out, it'll be fine. I put ice on it, I put heat on it. I was in so much pain. I went through that entire shift, we worked through the whole shift, and then I couldn't sleep. I get off work around 1 a.m. I couldn't sleep at all, and around 7 a.m. I texted my roommate and I was like, I'm gonna go to the hospital because I'm in so much pain. I'm in so much pain, I cannot sleep, I cannot think, I can't lay down. So I went to the hospital. Got to the hospital around 8 a.m. I was there until like close to 2 p.m. It was insane. When I got there, the hospital was mostly empty, but I guess some unfortunate, really tragic thing happened because nurses and doctors would like come into my room and they get called out for honestly more important things. So I guess it was just a really crazy day at the hospital, but I ended up being there for most of the day. Again, just like in really intense pain, no painkillers were helping. The nurses were like really nice, and they'd be like, do you like, we don't really know what to do for you yet because the doctor's really busy. I guess there was only one doctor on duty. I guess it was a Wednesday, I don't know. But yeah, the doctor would like come in and start asking me questions and start giving me information, and then would like run out to go do something else. And this happened twice, I'm pretty sure, before he was finally able to come in and kind of like hear my problem. He was like, what you're describing sounds like either a muscle strain or like a pinched nerve. He said it probably wasn't a pinched nerve because of my age, which I have a lot of old people body problems, so, but that's besides the point. Or is it? Stay to the end to see if that's besides the point. So he guesses it's a muscle strain, but just to be safe, he goes for a CAT scan. Fine. So we go do the CAT scan. We also did blood work and a urine sample because that's what you do when your sides are hurting. And at this point, I did tell the nurses and the doctor that I do have a history with kidney stones. Now, I did inform them that what was going on with me didn't feel like a kidney stone because it truly didn't. It felt like some sort of muscle cramping. Like it didn't feel, it was intense pain, but it was not to the level of a kidney stone yet. So we do the CAT scan, again, waiting for a long time. A lot of times nurses would come and be like, what are you waiting for? And I would have to kind of remind them and be like, oh yeah, that's right, we're waiting on that test for you. And all this to say, the doctor ends up coming back in, results of my CAT scan, doesn't see anything weird except I have a kidney stone, but it's still in my kidneys. The thing about kidney stones is if they're in your kidneys, they're not painful yet. It's when they start to kind of like move through your body to get out that they're incredibly painful. A little backstory about me, that kidney stone has been there since I was like 15. When I was 15, I did in fact have a kidney stone, so I do know how incredibly painful and miserable they are. And at that age, even after I passed it, when they did their final CAT scan, they were like, yeah, you have another one growing in there that at one day is just gonna fuck you up. So he mentioned it and I was like, yeah, that's been there for like quite a while. I know that's there. And he's like, yes, but this isn't the thing causing you pain. It's probably muscle strain. Prescribed me some like painkillers and muscle relaxers that I couldn't afford because I had been out of work for 3 weeks at this point. And then he wrote me off of work for 3 days. So that was the rest of the week. And I was like, okay, makes sense. And then he was like, hey, by the way, if the lower half of your body goes numb, you might die. Like, you know, all that scary stuff doctors tell you. And so I went home and I was in a lot of pain. Again, having a lot of pain sitting. There was one position I could lay in that didn't cause pain, and that was it. Everything else, sitting, standing, laying on my other side, walking, literally everything else was so painful. So I would just take like ibuprofen basically and just like sleep or lay on the couch. I would try and ice it. I would try and put heat packs on it. Basically anything to try and make myself feel better. And my thought was, if this doesn't go away in 3 days, that's a problem. But fingers crossed, it will go away in 3 days and then I could just go back to work, right? Well, that Saturday going into Easter Sunday, I was lying on the couch couch because it was more comfortable than my bed to lay in. So I was lying on the couch out of the living room and I started to feel that pain again. Nothing would help, no ice, no laying down, nothing. I was in so much pain, and it was to the point where like I felt like I couldn't move. Like I felt like I was in so much pain I could not move. And I was texting my roommate. I was like, hey, is there any way you can drive me to the hospital? But she was asleep. Because we all share the same schedule and I was supposed to be asleep. So I was like texting her like, hey, any way you can take me to the hospital? And eventually, you know, she does wake up and she's like, oh my God, like she was freaking out. I was a little bit more calm other than the fact I was in tremendous pain because, again, I've dealt with this before and at this point I knew this is probably a kidney stone. The doctor had already told me that it was basically ready to go at any moment now. It felt very, very similar and it's a very specific kind of pain and you remember it. Oh, you remember it. So it was at this point that I was like, this is most likely a kidney stone. So we need to go to the hospital immediately. So she helps me get up. She takes me to the hospital. This time the hospital is quite crowded. So we're in the waiting room. I'm filling out paperwork. My friend is getting frustrated because I'm in pain and a lot of people are going before me. And while I was like doubled over in pain going, while I was doing that, trying to explain to her that there's kind of like a priority in hospitals, chest pain, heavy breathing, and like head trauma, like those are all priorities. And like I'm like in my chair writhing and almost in tears sobbing, trying to explain to her like there's a reason they're not seeing me first, trying to calm her down while I'm in so much pain. It's so funny because kidney stones are very often compared to like labor pains, like having a baby. People say it's like a similar pain scale to having kidney stones, and she kept saying it sounds like you're giving birth, and I'm like, yeah. But anyways, we finally get seen. And the thing, okay, so here's the thing about kidney stone pain. It is so fucking intense. One moment, like you feel like you will die. Like you feel like if you're not seen now, you're gonna pass out, throw up, your whole body's gonna explode. And then all of a sudden there's just like this moment of calm. It's like the eye of a storm. And you're just sitting there still like crying and sweaty and like shivering from that pain that is like just suddenly subsided. But it seems like you're fine now. It seems like everything's okay. But that's just how kidney stones work. When they're moving, they're incredibly painful, but once they stop moving, there's no pain. So of course, right as my pain starts to subside, that's when the nurse calls me in the back. And so I try to explain to her, like, I was here a few days ago for muscle strain. I think that might have just been the first signs of the kidney stone, or maybe the muscle strain helped move the kidney stone to where it's now basically scraping along my insides. I explained to her I have had kidney stones before. I'm pretty sure that's what this is. And honestly, shout out to this hospital really close to me because everybody believed me. And I know that's so silly to say, but often people don't get believed. Often I haven't been believed. I did make some content about like my knee problems like a year or two ago, and I had a lot of times even just convincing doctors that there was something wrong with my knee. And at this hospital, everyone kind of immediately believed me, even the doctors. So that was pretty great. And I was kind of seated. They like put me in a wheelchair and everything, didn't make me walk to the back. They got me into a room as fast as they could, and they even let my friend come back with me, and she and I were there kind of talking to each other. And like I was trying to explain to her like I've had kidney stones before, this is the procedure, kind of like giving her the rundown because she was freaking out because she didn't know what was going on. All she knew is in 1 minute I was like couldn't sit still and writhing because I was in so much pain, and the next minute I'm like laughing and joking with her. And so I was trying to explain to her like that's just how kidney stones are. In about 2 hours I'm gonna be miserable again. Funnily enough, it was the same doctor before who came to see me, and he's like, you're back. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I have kidney stones this time. And he's like, okay, so you're pretty sure like the one that you had has finally moved? And I was like, yeah, I can tell. And he was like, okay, so we're gonna get tests done immediately. We're gonna get you that CAT scan immediately so we know how to go. Perfect. My friend ended up going home because again, it's long wait times in hospitals, and I was able to get my CAT scan done fairly quickly, and yep, it was the kidney stone. And the doctor was like, yeah, so it is the kidney stone. Here's the thing though, it's fucking massive. It was 6 millimeters, I'm pretty sure he said, which I think is kind of like obviously not the largest possible kidney stone, but on the scale of normal kidney stones, it is the biggest. So a typical kidney stone is about 1 millimeter to 6 millimeters. So mine was on the largest end of normal sized kidney stones. And he was like, so here's the deal. Could pass this on your own, but most likely you won't. Most likely it is too big for you to pass by yourself. You need to go see a specialist. He prescribed me some medicines that I was only able to purchase half of because America is expensive, and then wrote me off 3 more days of work. So this is when I started fighting with insurance and fighting with like part-time leave because I couldn't get in to see the neurologist until May 3rd, which you might notice by the time this video comes out, that hasn't happened yet. So I still haven't gotten the chance to see a specialist. So I still might need surgery surgery. We don't know yet. To make matters worse, while I still thought I had just plain muscle strain, so back when my side was just hurting and it wasn't quite the kidney stone levels yet, this tooth in my back molar started hurting tremendously. So fucking bad. And a few days after the hospital visit, I was able to go to the dentist, and it turns out I also need a root canal on this tooth. And as you can tell by me speaking about it in the future tense, that one hasn't happened yet either. I still have to get a root canal on this tooth. They were able to do like a little bit of work on it that took away a lot of the pain, but it still hurt, especially if I'm like eating or just like laying on my side for too long. So that's just like adding fuel to the fire basically. And to top it all off, the medicine that I do have for my kidney stone makes me incredibly queasy and incredibly dizzy, incredibly like hot and sweaty, but it's kind of like the only thing that's taking my pain away, along with like some relaxers that are supposed to help me possibly pass it on my own so that I don't have to see the specialist and I don't have to get surgery. So I took that next week of work off. On doctor's orders, I was able to take the first like 3, but I was not feeling better by the end of those 3s. And like I said, I was working with like insurance and like the short leave FMLA people on trying to get that shit sorted, which was incredibly frustrating and confusing because they kept asking me for the doctor who had seen me, and I was like basically asking for the urologist who had diagnosed me, and I had to be like, it wasn't a urologist, it was the hospital. And they were like, okay, well, which urologist did you see? And I'm like, I can't see one until May 3rd. It was a whole mess. And on the phone with the person I was talking to, who was a representative of the company, I was trying to work out, they have this thing called intermittent absence leave where you can go to work when you're feeling mostly up to par, and when you're not feeling up to par, you can call out, but it won't really be counted against you. So I was trying to get that sorted out, and I thought that I had gotten all sorted. I double checked with the person I was on the phone with like 3 times to like make sure that like, hey, I don't have a doctor's note, but I would like to do this to make sure that I can actually get paid, because I haven't been paid in almost a month at this point, between the Japan trip and me being sick and now all these health issues. That's like 3 going on 4 weeks with no pay. And I thought it had been cleared up on the phone, so I showed up to work on Monday. I worked for an hour before I was called into HR, and they're like, you cannot legally be here. And I was like, I thought I got this all taken care of with the FMLA person, and they were like, no, it says you cannot come back until May 5th. And I was like, but I won't even see a specialist until May 3rd. And it was a whole rigmarole, and that's kind of brought us up to current day. I still haven't been allowed to go back to work. I've been like trying to fight with the insurance to like figure out how do I get the necessary documents to go back to work even before I see the specialist. I've been talking to different doctors. I have a doctor's appointment set up coming up, and hopefully they'll sign the paperwork, but there's always the chance that because of the medication I'm on, they actually won't even clear me to go to work yet. It's a mess. It's a mess for sure. And so that's been really stressful. It's been really painful too, just like not even metaphorically speaking, like legitimately just in a lot of pain a lot of the time. And it really sucks because it's like I've been out of work for a month, so I haven't been making any money, but bills keep piling up. And so I have like my root canal coming up, so I have to have money for that, but I haven't been working for a month. And it's kind of like a vicious cycle where it's like I have to go back to work, but to be able to go back to work, I have to make enough money to pay for these doctors to tell me I'm allowed to go back to work. And I haven't even seen the specialist yet, and there is always the chance I might have to get surgery, which means I'll have to miss more work and more bills. And it's like I just don't know what's gonna happen yet. But yeah, so that's the reason I haven't really been posting videos. I've been kind of sidetracked. I've been kind of doing like Uber Eats and like delivery stuff just to like try and save up enough money to make these doctor appointments work and be able to, but it's a lot. And because it's like sitting in a car driving, that actually is one of the most painful things, is sitting straight up and down is actually incredibly painful. So it's not been a great time. Yeah, so that's where I've been. It's been a mess. I'm not having a good time, and so that's kind of put me out of wanting to work on YouTube videos. I just don't want to sit here and have to do the taxing part of editing while I'm in pain and uncomfortable and worried and stressed. So I made this video as a little bit of an explanation, and hopefully kind of like to get me back in the mood of posting and editing and just uploading videos. But we'll see. So like if videos start coming out more regularly, great. If they don't, I mean, now you guys kind of know why. A lot of pain, a lot of stress. I did get a second job finally, so it could also just be that I'm out of time now because I had to get a second job to try and play catch up a little bit. Trying to think if there's anything else. That's kind of been it. Anyways, drink water. Kidney stones suck.
Ow! Jump here.
Hello. It is the day after layoffs. What layoffs, I hear you wondering? So I was able to get a doctor's note to go back to work on that temporary intermittent absence leave I was talking to you guys about. So I was able to get a note that explained that. I still have not had the chance to see the urologist or anything like that, so still no answers in that regard. I had to push back my root canal because I didn't have enough money to pay for it. But I was able to start going back to work. I was at work for 2 days before they announced they were going to start doing a bunch of layoffs the upcoming week, which is now last week. So all of last week, everybody at work is terrified and stressed and worried. Nobody's exactly sure what parameters are going to be for the layoffs. Nobody's sure how many people in what areas of like the factory are going to get laid off. Nobody knows anything. No supervisors, not my manager who isn't even technically a supervisor, or if they do know, they're not telling us. So that was a very stressful weekend, and then that entire following week, very, very stressful stuff. It is the day after the layoffs were decided. I did manage to survive. I wasn't laid off, but it's been rough. It's been a rough week. It's been a rough month. It's been a rough year, honestly. And that kind of sucks because I kind of was feeling like 2024 was going to kind of like be my year to like kind of get a little bit farther ahead in like my kind of stuff that I wanted to do. It's not happening so far, so that's pretty interesting. You can see my crusty makeup. Me and my friends went in funeral attire, kind of like as a joke, because we kind of feel like it's the death of the company, or like the first signs of death in the company. But yeah, all of me and all of my friends survived the layoffs. They kind of made it sound like over the next 2 quarters, there's a good chance they'll do more layoffs. So I'm kind of scrambling. Everyone's kind of scrambling to see if we can find something else, because it sounds like they can't really guarantee our jobs in the future. So it's been a lot. Everything's really tough right now. However, surprisingly, I have found like the desire to be creative. I think part of that is because for almost a month or 2 now, I have not done really anything creative, and I'm starting to feel like this desire to go back into doing creative hobbies again, whether that be writing, making YouTube videos, sewing, painting, anything. So that's a good sign. It's just the stress that's been compounding for a long time now, close to 2 months now, is just, kind of eating me alive a little bit, to be honest. That's the only update I have now for you guys. No good news and even more worse news that was unrelated to the other bad news. So not really sure what I'm gonna do about any of the upcoming stuff, but then again, I'm never really sure about what's going on, so